What's up, everybody? This is the One More Thing podcast, and welcome back to I think this is going to be the last episode of the year. So fitting that this is the top 5 lessons of 2024. I'm gonna keep this like real quick. Don't want to go on a long-winded story and stuff. I'll just try to hit all the points so that it is a easy listening episode for all of you. So let's get right into it. So I have 5 lessons, and actually if you stay on a little bit longer at the end, I'll give you those that did not make like the top 5. So I have more than 5, okay? Because of course it's a long year, a lot of things to learn. So let's get straight into it. Number 1, okay, is that we live in a construct. So this is something that I've been thinking about more actually at the end of the year, because I don't know, I've just been reading a lot, and a lot of it, actually my favorite 2 books. Okay, maybe I'll get through my like favorite books of the year, but some of the favorite books I have is about spirituality and really just understanding oneself a little bit more. Okay, so I came to the realization that like legit everything is man-made, and I don't think that comes as a revelation to everybody that we live in a man-made world, but like it goes beyond like materialistic objects, right? So I went to the space where even like society is man-made, like jobs are man-made, the whole construct of how we live and how the world works is man-made. Like when we think of the world, we think of like buildings and economy and all those things that actually do not, I wouldn't go as far to say it does not exist or make sense, but if you were to strip down the world into what it really is originally, it is just land, water, and air. And basically everything else outside of the ecosystem is literally man-made, right? So economies are man-made, right? And like political stuff is man-made, right? How the world runs is man-made. And I think the more like boom part of like what that implicated to me is that the way that we live is man-made, because we live according to how the world works. And again, like I said just now, the world is man-made, right? The systems that we follow, the whole idea of having to do certain things and live a certain way and subscribe to certain ideologies. We got to use money, we got to, yeah, even like standards, right? What is a good or bad standard is all like a construct of previous generations experiences and stuff that goes all the way back to whenever civilization was like first created, right? And to think of it even deeper is that in order for these things to be made, it was made by men or a human, which is exactly the same as you or I, right? We are basically following ourselves in terms of our like what's that, species and everything, right? So I don't know if you're following my train of thought and like where it is headed to, but it is just like, what? Like, I am living this way because someone long ago started the train that dictates how life should be like and what we have to follow, right? So I'm not saying this as like a absolution to live nothing is real or nothing exists or like, you know, some kind of matrix kind of illusion. But it's just like, don't be so serious about life. Life is this way because some people long long ago decided that it should be in this direction, right? And it could have very well been another, you know, in a separate reality. It could have been, it might be very 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 different, right? And again, in like 50 years time, it can be so 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 different. And in knowing that, just don't take life too seriously. I think try to build your own world that does not disrupt, like, you know, all of life and whatever. But yeah, you don't have to follow things that don't make sense to you. um I mean, don't cause unnecessary trouble or, like, you know, do unjust things and all of that. But yeah, we live in a construct. That was a very, like, deconstructing thought process that I had this year. So that's number one. Number two, this one comes from a few of the books I'm reading. I'm very heavily into Stoicism right now. I'm not saying that I like live by it, but I'm just reading more about it because it seems interesting, and I really like the ideology and the approach to life that Stoicism brings. And to give you the core of Stoicism, they have these four cardinal virtues. So cardinal means like pivotal, like these are the values that will pivot you either way in life. So the four values are courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. And I'm following this author, Ryan Holiday, and he is writing a series of books. Each book is for one virtue, and the only thing he changes is temperance. He changes it into discipline. So from those four cardinal virtues, I've kind of like somehow tried to link them together, and I come up with this, which is to have courage. So it's courage to have discipline, for justice using wisdom. So I like to define certain words so that it makes more sense in an actionable term. So for me, courage is the strength to do something that is tough, that scares you, that oftentimes seems to work against you. And in the book, a lot of the courageable acts that he writes about are like standing up for what's right, doing things that often seem like not the popular opinion, because either you could get in trouble for it, or, you know, it was not as accepted as it is now, right? So the courage to do things that is tough, right? Standing up for what is right is tough. It is scary, and at that point of time, it works against you because you're going to get in trouble. You're going to have to do a lot of things. You're going to have to undergo a lot of, like, you know, either prejudice or whatever it is, right? So that's courage. Then discipline is the composure and commitment to stay true to the goal by action or inaction. And I think the inaction part was the one that really struck out to me when I was reading that whole book on discipline. We always think of discipline as you gotta do stuff. You gotta, you know, wake up at 5 a.m. and go for a run. You gotta do your homework. You gotta do things even when you don't want or don't like to do it. But I think the other perspective that was given in the book was the discipline to not do the things that you want to do. So that is discipline as well. Discipline to resist the temptation of doing things that you know you should not be doing. So yes, the commitment and composure, right, to do the things that align with your goal, either through action or inaction. And justice, simply put, justice is just the North Star. Justice is the direction that you go towards. It is the thing that you are doing it for. And last one, wisdom. is practicing knowledge from your own experience or from experience you have gathered, either by reading or by learning history or by observing what's going around the world like currently. And again, this was another thing that I heard on a podcast. Um, it was talking about it in like in relation to two things: the Bible and also Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, who is one of the Stoicism big personalities or big identity or profile, right? And he actually brings up a very very interesting point where in all those, usually like either Jesus in the Bible or the disciples in the Bible, when they're writing all of the passages and everything, and even in Meditations in Marcus Aurelius, they always say wisdom is to not do something. Wisdom is to know to not do something. And that was like, whoa, actually, yeah, it is the wisdom to not do things that you know will not serve your purpose or be like righteous or injustice. Yeah, so it's the courage, the strength to do something, to have discipline, right? Commitment to stay true to your goal through action or inaction, for justice, using wisdom to do the things you know not to do. So that was one of my biggest takeaways for the year. Yeah, so that's number 2. Number 3, and this one is more towards spirituality. I know spirituality is like a very turn off word for a lot of people, like such a what's that, hocus pocus, like otherworldly, like it's just a very cringe word. But I think I used to be like that, like, oh, spirituality, this is like some bogus stuff going on. But I realized then, when after I started reading more about spirituality, is that my understanding of what spirituality was is no, it's not totally wrong. It's just a very small part of what it really is. And I still don't fully understand it in a way that I can accurately explain it to you. But yeah, there's just one just big concept in spirituality of consciousness. So I've talked about this in previous episodes, and if you did not hear any of them, so I'm gonna give you the TLDR version of it here. So it is one thing to be alive, and it's another thing to be conscious. Essentially, it's asking the question: are you in control of your life, or are you being controlled? And how much of what we do is actually what we choose. So I'll give you some examples. So any kind of involuntary reaction, be it physical, behavioral, mental, or emotional, those are unconscious. That is our unconsciousness displaying out. For example, if someone says to you a certain thing that strikes a chord within you, and then you react to them and you behave in a certain way. So there are a few layers there. Number one is that reaction internally that you felt, like that trigger, like someone said to you and then you felt this. Did you choose to feel that, or did it just come out from nowhere? So if you did not choose, and choosing has to be like you need thought to choose, like I want to feel like this. So if you did not have that process, then that is unconsciousness. So that is emotional unconsciousness. Then if you responded with a sentence or a statement, right? And again, did you go through the process of, is this what I want to say? Did I choose these words that I'm going to say? So if you did not go through that process, then that is unconscious, right? Then another one is your behavior, right? If your behavior was to to like scoff at them and like kind of thing, right? Be like dismissive of it. So again, do you go through the process of, did I choose to react that way? Was this bodily behavior and physical reaction what I consciously chose to do? Right? It's like a knee-jerk reaction, right? Knee-jerk reaction, as we have studied, is involuntary reaction. It just happens because that is what it is conditioned to do. So same as our behavior, our emotional state, and even our thoughts, right? Did I think to think of this, right? So being alive is one thing, is another thing to be conscious. And if we live in an unconscious state, what we are is basically a puppet to the world, because there is like a million stimulus all around us, even from things that are not in our sphere of like attention, right? Whether it's a car honking and then you're like, oh my god, I'm so annoyed, right? Or like the sun is very hot and it's like, oh my god, the sun's very hot, I'm so annoyed, right? Like, do you choose to be annoyed? Like, do you actually like, okay, I'm feeling this heat in my skin and it's causing me to feel this, so I'm choosing to feel this because of that, and then because I'm feeling this, so I'm going to choose to say that I'm annoyed and I'm going to react in a certain way. Like, it might seem like it's very tiresome and very like draining, but if you, maybe I'm not a spiritual teacher, so I'm not doing a good job at at making you more attracted to all these. But if you really go through and read more about it, right? It explains it in a more simple way that you can just do it like that. Yeah. And again, I might drop some books at the end, so yeah. Okay, and then one more thing about consciousness is just the ego, right? So unnecessary, no, sorry. Okay, so anything, going back to the whole emotion, like involuntary reaction. So the next stage of that is holding on to that reaction, right? So why are you still angry at something that happened so long ago? Are you choosing to stay angry at it? And if so, why would you choose to stay angry at it? Like, if you were holding a hot piece of coal that is burning your hand, would you choose to hold on to it or would you let it go? And the tricky part about the unconscious is that it tricks you in thinking that it is something that you chose to do. So learning how to differentiate what you actually chose to do and what your mind makes you think you chose to do. And that is all under ego, which is the next thing that is under consciousness and unconsciousness, right? So ego is this perpetual need to have an identity, right? And if you have an identity, it means everyone else also has an identity. You cannot have an identity if no one else has an identity. And once everything has an identity, it is all about status. It's all about comparative, like, oh, I have to be better than that certain person, and this is who I am, right? I am a dance coach. I'm a husband. I am this. I am that. But in reality, those things, like I said all the way at the start, those are constructs. Those don't exist, right? Who defined what is a dance coach? Who defined what is a husband, right? If I were to go back in time to when the first human was created, did all these exist? If it did not exist back then it does not objectively exist now, right? If I were to autopsy myself, right, next time when I die, you autopsy me, where in my body, in my organs and everything, would you be able to say that this person was a dance instructor and this person was a husband, this person was maybe a father next time, this person was an athlete, whatever, right? So those are man-made, and all of that is under ego. And I think a lot of the things that are existing in this world, like economy and whatever, is really due to ego being inflated and perpetuated. So yeah, that is one of my biggest learnings of the year. Next one is number 4, going real fast. is what you can control. So this comes under the whole teachings of Stoicism. So Stoicism, other than the four cardinal virtues, the main gist of it is knowing what you can control and letting go of everything you can't control. So in our lives, we can only control ourselves. We are not in control of other people. We are not in control of their emotions, their reactions. We're not in control of the way the world works. As contrary to what I said, that everything is man-made. Man-made being we controlled it. So we control what we want, but we don't control how it's gonna become. So let's say I drop something in the water. That's what I control. But what that something does to the water is not in my control. So that is essentially what civilization was. Men introduced something and it just became whatever it was, irregardless of our influence after that. But anyway, coming back to the whole what you can control. So two quotes from, or two like writings from two of the Stoic philosophers. Number one was from Marcus Aurelius. He says, "It is not the things that upset us, but our judgment of them." And things don't ask to be judged, right? When a cat walks by, jumps up, and runs towards you, right? It's not asking to be judged. It just happens, right? And then you'll be like, oh my god, this stupid cat, like, scare me, whatever it is. Like, yeah, yes, there are like involuntary reactions as a human response, but what made us upset is that that situation happened as it is. Like, if you can follow that train of thought or like understand what I'm trying to say, yeah, it's not things that, or let's say like you get scolded, right? So our judgment of that, and the word scolded is already a judgment because it has tied on emotions, and like, yeah, we know what that word means. But if we say in like we were given a lesson, we will be more receptive of it. So judging how that situation or what that situation is what tells us how to feel. And that can be anything that you judge it to be. So it is not that thing that upsetted us. It is how we perceived it to be for ourselves that made us upset. And the next saying is by Epictetus. He says, "Don't seek for things to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish everything happens as it actually will." It's almost similar to like, whatever you get, just think that it is what you wanted to happen in the first place. And it is usually because we have a pre-planned expectation of how things are going to turn out. And usually there are a million ways something can turn out. And we only think one way it will only turn out one way, right? So the chances of it turning out that one way is like infinitesimally small. And so we're essentially just setting ourselves up for unhappiness and contempt, right? So why waste our time wishing something will happen a certain way? We can plan for it for sure, but just understand that and let go of the outcome. Like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it's also fine, right? I just hope that it turns out as it would. It's just going to be how it is. And that's my favorite saying. It is what it is, and it will be what it's going to be, right? I'm just going to do what I can. I hope it's going to turn out this way. If it does not, it is totally fine. Let's just move on, and I just hope things turn out the way it's going to turn out. And if whatever happens, you'll just be like, okay. Yeah, so let go of the things you can't control. Number 5. Is it number 5? Yeah, it is number 5. Okay, number 5 is choose your heart. 99% of life is going to be hard. It is a feature and not a bug. I wrote this recently on one of my IG posts. I think I did. Or maybe it's one that I've written and have not posted it yet. But yeah, hardships is a feature, not a bug. So feature is like it's part of the program. It's nothing wrong with it. Bug is like, when you develop software and a bug is something that you did not plan for it to happen and it is detrimental, so you gotta fix it, right? So you solve a problem, or you what's that? You work on a feature, but you fix a problem, you fix a bug, right? So fixing means you're against it, you're trying to change it, but solving means you're working with it to solve for whatever it is. So you can't like go against and go with at the same time. There are two different things, right? So 99% of life is going to be hard. It's a feature and not a bug. So if you don't actively choose what hard you want to undertake, 100% of the hardships you face will be chosen for you, or it will seem like it is chosen for you. And of that 100% of hardships you will face, you will not get to choose 100% of them. But at least choosing maybe 25% of it will teach you in a willing state what it takes to endure them and what it takes to get better at dealing and handling those hardships. So the most like bad thing about hardships, or the thing that works against hardships even though it is good for us, is that it makes us resist them. It makes us like adverse to it. We don't want it, so we're always trying to resist it, right? So we're not in this willing state to learn as much as we can be like, yeah, okay, I know this is for a purpose and whatever, but when we actually go through it, our unconscious takes over, and that's our natural reaction to resist and be like, oh my god, no, kind of thing. So actually doing hardships that you choose that are maybe not as unenjoyable, a little bit more enjoyable, right? And things that you voluntarily choose, it puts you in a more willing mind state to learn how to endure it. Like for example, again, don't just kill me for like repeating this again, but running for me, like it's tough, like it's really really tough, especially the long runs and everything, but it's something I chose to do, and I know it consciously that it's something that I chose to do. So I know that throughout the whole way that I am actually training myself to endure more stuff, endure tougher things, right? Because the only purpose for that is to learn how to endure hardships. But if you endure hardships that naturally come, it is usually for a greater purpose, like you have to complete a job, and it actually matters what the outcome is. So you don't get to have the luxury of your whole brain space being occupied by one sole purpose, which is just to get better at enduring hardships, to learn what it takes. Does that make sense? To me it does. But yeah, I think in life, just expect that it's going to be hard and tough, and you should just choose to do it, or at least choose as much as you can to do the things that maybe help you get better at dealing with hardships. So again, you either resist or yield. Only one allows progress, and the other one is really just futile. You can resist as much hardship as you want. It's gonna come eventually, and hardships always win, because life always wins. You are just one person in a big life. Life always wins. So resisting is really futile. So you either yield to the hardship and be like, this is what I'm gonna go through, bring it on, I'm gonna solve it, I'm not gonna work against to fix it. Yep. And those are my top 5. I think those are my top 5. Or maybe those are just 5. Those are just 5 of my biggest life lessons that I've learned in this year. Like I said, I'll give you some of my other lessons, and I'll try to make them quick, because I kept this video under 30 minutes, but if I add this extra stuff, it's over 30 minutes. Okay, quick one. So one more is communication is key. I learned that 7% of our communication is only 7% is spoken word. So whatever we say and whatever we hear is only 7% of communication. 38% is tone. So again, if you talk in an angry way, it's going to sound like that. And that gives you more information about what I'm trying to say. Compared to if I were to, say in this kind of tone, that 38% of what you actually hear is the tone in someone's voice rather than the spoken word, then you get a different signal, right? And you react differently, right? And that only adds up to 45% of communication. And that 45% is verbal communication. That's less than half. So 55% is non-verbal communication, right? And of those 55%, majority of that, I actually think, if I remember correctly, it's like 80% or maybe a bit less than that, is gestures. So again, what you're doing with your hands, how are you signaling to that person what you're trying to communicate and stuff like that. So we think that communication, and I would say that generally we think communication is just talking, right? We're just using words, chim words, simple words, descriptive words to tell what we want to say. But that is 7%. If you include your ability to understand tone and to control your tone so that it matches what you're trying to say and the emotion you're trying to say it with, then that's only 45%. And let's face it, I think especially Singaporeans, we are very bad at tone. Everything we say sounds like we are dismissive and sarcastic and judgmental. Let me know if you disagree with that. But I think all of us will agree that our tone as Singapore, our default tone is judgmental, condescending, and rude. So we only have 7%. And again, we are not an pure English country. We speak Singlish. So 7% of our communication is not even 7%. And our English level is not even amazing, right? If you compare to like UK, which is really English. They are like master of English. It's like, whoa. So we only have 5% of communication ability. So it doesn't matter if you have good ideas, doesn't matter if you have good intentions, doesn't matter if you're really smart, intelligent, or competent. If you cannot communicate, you're just not going to be successful. And studies were done on this, that communication is a very big part of success. Next one, motivation. I've mentioned this before in my previous episode. Motivation is the avoidance of discomfort. You want to do something hard, find something harder to do. Then the previous hard thing that you wanted to do will seem, actually it's not so bad. I'm going to go do that one. Yeah. Always works. Okay. If it does not work, it means whatever you have found is not harder than what you wanted to do before. Yeah. So next one, turn feelings and emotions into appropriate action. Feelings and emotions are signals. Signals are meant to direct action in the right way. Like, in traffic lights, they tell you to do stuff. They are a signal. So if that signal does not turn into an action, it does not matter. Cars are still going to crash. Cars are still going to beat the red light. So the point of a signal is to command an action. Red light means stop. Green arrow means go. Green left means you can turn left. Right? So the two biggest disconnects are issues. Two biggest disconnect of... Wait, I don't know what I wrote here. I was like on a roll, man. The two biggest disconnects is inaction and inappropriate actions. Oh my god, my words. Yeah, so it's either inactions. So again, there's a signal, but we don't do anything about it, or inappropriate actions. So actions that are not linked to the stimuli. Like for example, if I show a red, if I show amber light, supposed to be slow down, right? But then the car goes speed up. So what happens is usually, sometimes, seldom, nowadays more often, the oncoming car will be like, oh, the other side yellow light, I can start to go already, and then bah, right? So inappropriate actions, right? And beyond that, the bigger issue is the inability to be aware of, process, and understanding the feelings or emotions. So there's this term, again, I mentioned this, I think I shifted my camera. I mentioned this in a podcast with Charmaine about alexithymia. So it is the numbness to feelings. So the feelings are there, but you just don't know how to understand it. Yeah, I think a lot of us have that. And it's actually male normative alexithymia. So males are more prone to, or more commonly found to not be in tune with their feelings. And it has to do with hormonal stuff. Like estrogen helps the regulation of emotions or something like that. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So just because we don't feel any emotion does not mean it is not there. So sometimes we say, oh, I have a higher tolerance for this, I have a higher tolerance for this, and blah, 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 blah. So tolerance, what does it mean? Okay, tolerance to me, I define it as the endurance threshold. So how much can you endure till it reaches the threshold? So it still means that it is there, right? It just means your threshold is higher. So this, if you compare a low threshold and a high threshold person, right? Pain, boom, it is still there. Pain, boom, it is still there. This person will be over the threshold, so they will say pain. But this person, higher threshold, so they won't. It's not painful, but the same amount of input is still there, right? So it doesn't mean we don't feel it or we don't like feel like we have to act on it. Means it's not there. It is there, and as long as there is an input, especially emotional, there needs to be a process that clears it out, so that it does not bottle up or it does not, turn into inaction or inappropriate actions. 3 more, real quick. Next one, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is one that I read in a book about human behavior. So it says that we are conditioned to only focus on these 5 bases of needs in order. So our most important one is physiological needs. So staying full, being warm, being safe, right? The more like survival things. The next one then is social needs, right? So having friends, being liked, being accepted. The next one is love and belonging. So feeling like you have your own tribe, feeling like you belong somewhere. Next one is self-esteem, right? So your own like self-worth. And then last one is self-actualization. So if you were to think deeper, where do you fit on this? Like in the graph, it was a pyramid. So the bottom was physiological. Next one is the social needs, love, belonging, self-esteem, and then actualization is the top. And it's like this because that is the distribution of people who are within this hierarchy of needs. Whoop, camera cut off. But yeah, pyramid is the distribution of the people in society now, right? So most of them will be at the bottom, right? They're just concerned about their survival. Are they, sheltered? Do they have enough food? Are they, warm enough, etc.? Then you have most of us, which are probably in the second one. Okay, like I would say if you are in your teens, you are probably in the second one with social needs. You are more concerned about like, having friends and being liked and being accepted and etc. Right? And then the third one is love and belonging. Usually that's when you're more in adulthood where, you want to find someone to settle down with, or you want to build closer connections with the friends you have gained in the second ladder. Second, rung of the ladder. Then the next one is self-esteem, right? So you want to have your own self-worth now, right? You're more focused on being confident and like finding more about yourself and like basically your self-worth, right? And then last one is your self-actualization, which is more like altruistic things, like what are you doing, what's the purpose of your life, right? So what a lot of us tend to do is when we are, especially when we're teens, we always want to find purpose. I don't know. I was like that. I was like, what's the purpose of life? Right. At the same time, like, oh, I have no friends, kind of thing. Right. And we don't realize that we need to attack or like approach it in that order to then really fully understand how to get to the top. Right. So for example, a person who is like starving is not going to care whether they're doing anything for the world, right? What is the bigger purpose of life when they are starving or homeless and whatever, right? Someone who is in need of friends, like, oh, I want to find friends, is not going to care, like, how can I give back to society that much, right? So it's only if you have attained the pre what's that the prerequisite level. Once you have completed the prerequisite level or feel like you have attained the prerequisite level, then you will be able to then focus on the next one. So yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Interested in that, go and read it up. Next one, finding something to live for that is bigger than you. So this is for those who are maybe at the fourth rung of that ladder. You have your self-esteem, and then you are down to self-actualization. Right, so the most purposeful people who live really fulfilled lives work for bigger things than them, are concerned for bigger things than them, and are in service of things that are bigger than them. So right, you talk about like the billionaires of the world, right? They obviously have their physiological needs met. They are billionaires, of course. They have networks. They have their social needs met. Love and belonging. Okay, maybe that is the one that some are too caught up in their work that they actually don't really care about love and belonging, right? They have self-esteem. They have so much money. To them, that is their self-worth. So they are now set out at self-actualization. So it's like, what can I then bring to the world? What can I give back to the world? Right? And I feel that is actually the only way to find your true purpose in life. And again, not all like structures of thought have to be linked, right? So again, you don't really need to have like the previous four hierarchy of needs in order for you to find something to live for that is bigger than you. You don't have to like be very, very competent at all those four, right? You can just be like, okay, I have enough food to live, not concerned about that. I have some friends, not too concerned about that, right? I feel like I have close friends. I feel like I belong with them. Or you have a very strong family bond. You belong somewhere. It's good enough, right? And maybe you have some sort of self-esteem, right? You know your self-worth, right? Then I think your next step is already try to find something bigger. It doesn't have to be like Elon Musk kind of like SpaceX. I want to find a new civilization habitat for human life. But it's just like giving back to society and helping more people. But the more you find something bigger than yourself to live for, then the less selfish you become, the less I, me, myself, and all of that you will be in conversations. And to me, that's the number one thing I always look out for is how much does the person who I'm talking to refers to themselves. Right? Oh, I did this. I did this. Oh, I did not do this. My experience was this. So the more they talk about themselves, the less likely they are to be living for something other than themselves. Yeah, something to think about. Last one, stop, accept, or change. So this is a very big three thing that I try to focus my reactions upon. So either I stop, I change, or I accept it. And I think and I logically believe that to do anything else is a waste of time. And anything else just basically is resist lah. Yeah. Okay, so these three are not external actions but internal, right? So either I stop choosing to engage in it. So I'm not asking them to stop because I can't control them. Only I can control myself. So I'm stopping myself from engaging in whatever it is I don't want to engage in. Either I change the way that I am engaging in this. So again, I cannot change the way I can try to say like, hey, can you change it because it's making me feel this way. But the more effective way is to change how I view it. Like, okay, this is not a punishment, this is just experience, right? Or this is not something that I have to do, this is something that is going to help me do get this, right? Or I just accept it, like these are the things that I have to do, I just have to do it, so just accept it, stop resisting it, yield to it, and work with it. Try to solve it, don't fix it. Yeah. Yeah, so those are my big few lessons of this year. Definitely there's more, I haven't had time to pen them all down, but so far these are my big lessons. To drop a few books that I've read. Actually, I say like I read a lot of books. I have not. I think my favorite book this year would have to be the one that I did a podcast about, which was The Power of Now. That's my episode. Was it episode 2? How to Live a Simple Life. Yeah, if you search it up, you will find it. I know it's a very, very long episode, but trust me, it is. If you don't want to listen to it, then go and read the book. It's all about spirituality and honestly finding peace in life, and just accepting things for how it is, how to turn situations into more positive experiences, and how to, like, the more important one is how to be aware of consciousness and how to be aware of your unconsciousness. Really, 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 really good book. It's by Eckhart Tolle. If you want the ebook, I have the ebook. I can just send you a PDF and you can read it on your phone, on the way to wherever it is. Like, read a chapter a day. Yeah, I really, really recommend that book. Other than that, I read the Stoic books. So, Courage is Calling, Discipline is Destiny, and Justice is Right Here, Right Now, Right Thing, Right Now. I read Read People Like a Book. That's the one that I got a lot of the behavioral cues and communication things that was very insightful. It's by Joe Navarro. You can actually search up him on YouTube. He has some like very short, like 10-minute videos where he breaks down people's behaviors and body language. It's really, really cool. He was like a FBI profiler or something like that. Yeah. I first saw him on YouTube. Then I was like, oh, this guy. Then I saw his book and I was like, this is really interesting. I'm going to go read that. Yeah. Another book that I read that was interesting is I can't get my head around it. Yeah, if I remember, I'll let y'all know. But yeah, those are the few books that I read. If y'all want more book recommendations, let me know. I will tell you all the books that I have read and also those that I'm planning to read. I have like a stack of books that's waiting for me to be read. So hopefully I get through them. Yes, but other than that, that's all for this year. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast through the year. If you have listened to all my episodes, I honestly cannot thank you enough. I don't even know, or I didn't even expect like people to listen to this podcast because it's just me talking. Like, how insightful is that? It's not much, but yeah, if you listen to like at least 3, 4, 5 of my episodes, I would like to thank you so much. And I know it's not like a big value production kind of podcast. I'm recording it out of my room with a GoPro and a cheap mic and like non-professional editing, and the way I talk is sometimes not really flowing really well. Sometimes my train of thoughts gets like derailed and get hits by another train, and then it just like implodes, and it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, hopefully I managed to give you some insights about different aspects of life that you can apply to your own. And I really just hope that you find the best version of the life you want to live and go live your life. Yeah, I think we are put on this planet for a reason, and we are alive for a reason. Why not make use of it? And the only best way that we can make full use of it is to go and find out what lives can we live. So the more we know, the more informed decisions we can make, and then the better lives we can choose to live. Those who do not go out in search of more things to find out, they are living in ignorance. And as much as, yes, ignorance is bliss, but it hides you, or it, shuns you away from the real true potential that you can really be. If that makes sense. Yeah. Again, another train that I don't even know where it was going, but it was there, but yeah. But anyway, thank you so much, and hope you all have a good holiday, good Christmas, good New Year. I had a lot of fun recording this. These kind of things make me think a lot more, and yeah, if you all have any feedback or things you wanna reach out to me and say about these podcasts, I would really, really appreciate them. Not fishing for compliments or whatever, but it would just be nice to know that, I've made a difference. Like, some things that I've said actually make sense. And yeah, so if you have anything, just let me know. You know where to look for me. IG, you can comment on the YouTube. Comments help a lot. Subscribe, share it more. I think sharing does the best thing that our podcast needs, more audience. And yeah. So thank you. Have a good holiday, good New Year, and I will see you all next year on YouTube, Spotify. I will try to keep it going more consistently. That's all for today. Peace.